Hello again, artists, and welcome to episode 3 of The Artist Journey. On this episode, I chat with Sarah Elliott and Evan Jenkins. Sarah is a technical artist currently working at Mighty Kingdom in Australia. Evan is a VFX artist for film, now exploring the exciting world of real time VFX and games. We chat about subjects such as growing up in a country town, moving out of your comfort zone, mentoring young artists, and many more lessons on our journey as artists.
I start? It all began when I was little. That one.
I was born.
Yes.
The world was magnificent.
And that's
I
when
was
the world
born in a
realized,
dark and stormy night.
the world realized that they had a force to reckon with.
The camera's really bouncy.
And the world was never the same again.
Well, that's a good thing, I think, if you could think about it that way. But okay, cool. So how are you guys feeling all today? I guess we already talked about how you're feeling this morning. Oh, it's afternoon now, isn't it?
Yes.
Certainly is.
So you're both you're in Adelaide now, yeah? So
I am.
Evan's in Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm working in Adelaide, but I'm working remotely from Victoria during lockdown. Thought it would be better to lock down with my family in Victoria, so it's been nice to be home for a little while.
Okay, that's nice. So you had a chance to you got away from the
Going a bit stir crazy.
got a chance to get away from the lockdown.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back to Adelaide.
Yeah.
Home's nice, but it's like I want to get back into the swing of things, go back into the office. I miss people.
Yeah, that's nice. Have you had a chance to talk to a lot of people recently?
The good thing about working remotely is just we're still doing all of our stand-ups and all of our meetings via like internet calls, so we can still have a chat and still go and we'll play D&D once a fortnight and have that kind of social time as well. So that's been really good, helping me stay sane.
Okay, that's awesome. And I think staying sane during these times is pretty important. Awesome. Cool. So I think without further ado, I reckon let's just get started, get into the questions. Thank you to everyone thank you again, Evan and Sarah, for joining me today. Once again, this is another episode of The Artist Journey. And I'm here with Sarah and Evan. Both Evan is a VFX artist who was previously on one of our podcasts, and Sarah is here today working in the games industry here in Australia. So, hey guys.
Hi. Nice to be here again.
Yes, Evan's looking like she's going to be a regular here.
Oh no.
So, first up on the questions of today's episode in The Artist Journey, Sarah, if you could have a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on now.
So I'm Sarah. I've been at Mighty Kingdom in Adelaide for about 2.5 years now. It's passed by really quickly. So as a technical artist, I've been jumping between projects, not as much sitting on one project as you might do if you're, say, a programmer. I've had the chance to work on some really, really cool things. Our wildlife puzzle story, our Mighty Kingdom's first original IP, that was one of the first things that I got to actually have a go at and do some rigging for when I first joined Mighty Kingdom. And now I've been working through different, we've got Conan Chop Chop, which is an upcoming release. And we've got a couple of other games in the pipeline that I've been working on that are just really different and really fun. So I've been able to do a lot of different things ranging from 3D, 2D. I've also been able to kind of dip my toe in just a little bit into 2D art and a little bit into 3D art and kind of wear many hats, I guess. And that's been really good and really enlightening for how other teams and other disciplines work.
That's real awesome. So you mentioned you're a technical artist. So for those people who haven't heard of what a technical artist is or what they do, can you give an example about some of the roles or responsibilities you have?
So technical art is a little bit different depending on what studio you might be going to, and depends on film, VFX, and games as well. At Mighty Kingdom, we split it pretty much into particles, pipeline, and rigging. Those are like the main three pillars. I kind of stick mainly to rigging. We've split into 2D and 3D rigging. I do most of our 3D rigging while still kind of hopping onto the 3D team every now and then. The particles and pipeline would lean more into what Evan would do with particles, even though VFX games, there's a slight difference, but that's more Evan's field. Pipeline, we're using, it depends on what you're trying to get done. So for the pipeline for 3D art and animation, we've got programmers who will write up pipeline to pretty much take out user error and take out time and make sure that everything kind of goes really smoothly from Maya to Unity. I've done a little bit of that, but I've really kind of found my home in rigging, especially 2D rigging.
That's awesome. So essentially, you do things so that so a lot of the, I guess, a lot of the people who are non-technical artists and creatives can actually do their work properly. So without you, people couldn't do their job, essentially.
Yeah, I think it's our job to kind of make everyone else's job a little bit easier. And if we can help things run a little bit smoother and means that people don't have to go and redo things as much, that's our job done successfully.
Yeah, that's real awesome. So it's really cool to see this kind of perspective from the pipeline. Coming from an artist myself, I've had to do a little bit of technical stuff with as a lighting artist when it comes to building your own tools or making things for your own personal pipeline. But yeah, working with TDs in my department is just, without them, things would be like 20 times harder because we couldn't do our job in the best way that we could. So thanks for that introduction, Sarah. Evan, we've heard a little bit about you from the past before, but for those who haven't met you, tell us a little about yourself or what you're doing now, or what you hope to be doing soon.
Well, you should all know about me already. If you listen.
She's incredibly famous. If you haven't, I'm disappointed.
Oh, yes. I get so much fame. It's just ridiculous. Now, in all honesty, I have not been doing much right now because I'm looking after my very young puppy. He is a very big handful. But in the small amount of downtime I get away from him when he's napping, I am still working with Unreal Engine mostly. So Unreal Engine is with the games, and sorry, redo that. I'm working with Houdini Engine. Houdini Engine is separate from Houdini, but it's in Unreal and Unity. So it's sort of like the bridge between Houdini and Unreal, or Houdini and Unity. And with it, I can use Houdini digital assets, which is a collection of assets sort of like jumbled together in one node with parameters on top. And using Houdini Engine in Unreal, I can bring that in and then use the asset in Unreal. So right now I'm doing a dungeon generator, which I finally got working. Sarah knows all about this because I've been updating Sarah on its progress. But using this, I can like generate dungeons really quickly. I can just say I want this many rooms and connect paths to them and change the doorways between the paths and the rooms. And then I can spawn assets in them. And instead of spawning just regular assets, I can spawn blueprints in Unreal. So I can spawn pickups, like health pickups or items, inventory items, or I can spawn regular geo that they just can collide into. So yeah, I finally got that working, took a while. My next big step, I think, is I've only done it in Unreal. I'm now exploring Unity, so Houdini Engine in Unity, and that will be my next task I tackle.
That's awesome. So now sounds like you're really making a jump into the games industry. Previously, your last job was actually in VFX and film, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit weird how I've found sort of a little bit of a passion going into games. I find it really fun to do while I've been in lockdown. While I still want to work in film industry, I do want to try a job in games. I want to see the differences. I hear about the differences, but I want to experience it for myself and see where I want to end up in 5-10 years from now, whether it be in film or games.
That's
And
awesome.
there's a lot of compatibility with both of those, a lot of the similar skills that you need.
Mhm. That's real cool. And do you find that there's a lot of transfer? You said there's a lot of skills in both of the industries. Have you had to be doing a lot of relearning, or really Houdini for VFX and Houdini Engine for games is really pretty much the same ball game?
Yeah, there's different constraints, especially with games, because you can't do massive explosions like you can on film because like games won't run then because that's just too much for it to process. So yeah, it's more like sprite sheets, but you can make those massive explosions in Houdini and then render out every frame and then change that into a sprite sheet and bring it into like Unreal. And then you got basically the same explosion and it runs so much smoother.
Mm. Awesome. So there's definitely a lot of
It may look a
workarounds.
bit weird as you're running around it because it's like a front-on explosion. Yeah.
Awesome. But rendered onto a card. That's
Yeah.
cool. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can essentially use from before to make your game's VFX even better. And I saw a lot of the stuff that you were doing when you showed me your breakdown of games VFX, and that was real awesome. So let's move on to the next part of this question, so next part of the episode. And I really want this to be more of a discussion. We've got two really talented artists here, and I really want a chance for you all to kind of bounce over each other's ideas and bounce over each other's thoughts. So feel free to jump in, Evan and Sarah, whenever the other person is talking. So it's not necessarily me and them, but this is really a chance for you guys to hear your thoughts and really share things that would really feel that are interesting or benefit to us and even yourselves and each other for sure. So back to Sarah. Next part of it is talking about how you got to where you are today. And I'm sure there's a lot of people which would be really interested in getting into technical art, keeping that in mind. But what's one significant moment that brought you to where you are today?
Oh, this is kind of like this is more in the veins of my origin story, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. If you were to have a superhero
Um,
comic or a movie, what would it show?
well, depending on how far back we want to go. Well, my originally when I was in high school, my career path was way different. I was actually gearing up to join the army, and I ended up getting quite sick and couldn't, as a result, join the army. And so I had to study something because I was going a bit crazy, just being in the house, not doing anything. And well, I'll study animation online. It was actually my mum that suggested it, and kind of fell in love with every aspect of animation that this online diploma that I did. Everything that it taught was just from 3D modeling to animation to a tiny bit of rigging that we did in this diploma. I just absolutely loved it all. And there I decided, well, I want to go on with this. I feel like I've got a good kind of base understanding from this diploma, but I want more. So I went to Melbourne to do the bachelor version of this diploma, where I was in the same class as Evan, and that's where we met. And the world's never been the same.
Would you ever go back?
Not a chance. But I think it was about 6 months in that we built our first rigs, and I just kind of thought up until then I had an idea what rigging was from my diploma, but up until then I didn't really know what technical art was. And after building this first rig, I thought, I love this. This is what I want to do. Like I don't, it's that response from a lot of people, but.
Did you get the same feeling, Evan, when it came to rigging?
No, I was when it came to rigging. I managed to do the project somehow. Rigging was not my forte because I couldn't name things right, and it's very, very strict with naming.
That's interesting. But you loved it, Sarah, obviously.
Yeah. It just slotted in right to how I thought and how my brain works, I guess, how I problem solve, my entire thought process. It was just like this kind of process was built just for me. And that was like a really huge aha moment. Like I found what I was meant to do. And so everything from then on that I did, every project I did in uni, I geared it towards how it would help me get into rigging later on. So, we had to do a film class elective, and I was in After Effects. And so I thought, cool, I'm going to learn how to use After Effects to make my show reel. Even our major projects at the end of uni, I thought, cool, I'm going to make the show reel. I'm going to make the rigs to put into my show reel. So everything was geared to that from then. I still enjoyed all the other bits and pieces, but rigging was just front and center, full focus for me from there.
Mm.
Now, before you got into rigging, you were more interested in modeling, weren't you?
Yeah, I was really interested in modeling and kind of the art, 3D art and art side of things. And I've always enjoyed 2D art, but I really thought, I don't want to touch anything technical. That's all beyond me. I just want to model things. And now I'm a little bit of the opposite. I'm like, cool, I want to do all the rigging. I can model if I need to, but I want to focus on the rigging.
Yeah, I think it's really good
somewhere along
everyone to try everything, because you might really want to be a modeler, and then a bit later on you'll try lighting or something and you'll go, oh my God, this resonates with me. I was born to be a lighter.
I think that was one of the good things about the course that we were doing, is that it gave you a little taste of everything. And it wasn't just, what do you want to do at the start? Cool, you want to be an animator? All right, just animate. There was bits and pieces that they focused a little bit more on the art side. I think we kind of broke the mold with leaning heavily towards technical aspects.
You and me were a bit weird because we broke free from like the regular class, and I self-taught myself Houdini because that wasn't in the classroom, and we didn't have a rigging teacher, or none of them particularly specialized in rigging, so we sort of had to go out there and learn it ourselves.
And I think that's what being passionate about it and really kind of thinking, I love this and I want to do this, it doesn't make it difficult to learn. Like you don't feel like you're kind of running around in circles learning things.
That's really awesome. It seems both of you had while you had a chance to explore a lot of things in your career, you really early on just found something you fell in love with. And for yourself, self-learning Houdini or jumping into the technical aspect of learning it for Sarah. But that's really interesting. I think jumping back a little bit beforehand, when you first picked up that diploma of animation, what made you do that when you realized you couldn't go into the army, or you decided not to? Was it something you just felt a passion for, or your mom kind of thought that, or they just saw a random ad and was like, hey, animation sounds cool?
It was just like all the stars aligned perfectly. It was really bizarre. Being housebound, kind of doing a preliminary run for COVID-19, I guess, meant that I wasn't doing anything. And I guess my mum turned around and said, for God's sake, study something. You're driving me insane as well as yourself going nuts. And she said, what about animation? Like, I'd always loved to draw, and I think everyone that I went to high school with knew that I was going to end up in something creative or a creative field, even though I was like, yeah, Defence Force, Army, I'm going to do this. And they're like, why are you doing that? You draw every chance you get. Like, all my homework had little sketches and cartoons around the edges. And every free period I did, I was writing comics and just drawing characters and things. And so I think I'd seen a booth at a Comic-Con, or one of the comic festivals in Melbourne for the uni that I ended up going to. I think I saw a booth for them, and when I was Googling places to study at, I recognized their branding. I'm like, oh, I talked to some of those people and they seemed really cool. And so that was the uni that I ended up going with.
That's really awesome. And Sarah, you found that you ended up studying with Evan. That's right. And is that the same uni when you did your bachelor's?
Yeah, because I kind of just rolled from the diploma straight into the bachelor when I was able to go and study in Melbourne and actually travel to uni.
No, that's really interesting. That really big change from bouncing between, an army, wanting to do Defence Force, and your mum. And you think, supporting you in that way. I do think having a real supportive parent figure, pushing you into this direction of the creative field really helped.
Yeah, having supportive family and friends it was really important to me, that they didn't might not understand, like, oh cool, I'll try and explain what rigging is to them, and they're like, enjoy it, we're happy. Keeping like my family included in the decisions that I was making, and them supporting, and throwing a curveball at me, like a what if scenario. Have you considered this, or have you considered that? And I think they just saw how much passion I had for this, and they were like, yeah, go run at it.
That's real awesome. And you've been really running from it, or running towards it ever since.
Yeah.
I think we'll jump over to Evan for a little bit. And in terms of your study, like your time with Sarah in I guess studying at uni, I don't think we've heard that much about you on our previous podcasts. So, I guess that's a chance for you to talk about that. However, we'll throw the question, feel free to choose whatever moment you want to. But what's one significant moment that brought you to where you are today, sitting in this room with your gamer chair?
Yeah. The text message saying you want another interview.
And the blackmail.
So I think my last one was CG Futures, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We all had CG Futures. We're promoting it.
Yeah.
That's great. So I'm going to go a little bit further back, because as a kid growing up in the middle of nowhere, like my town was itty bitty tiny, and the only things you could be were like nurses or tradies or like work at the local supermarket. There was like 5 different job choices you could choose. And yeah, Sarah knows this because Sarah grew up in a very
small country town struggles.
Yeah, that's why we get on so well. So yeah, I had absolutely no idea about the film industry. It didn't exist to me. Movies were just like there. I don't know how they got made, they were just there. So right after high school, I actually wanted to get into the health industry. I wanted to help people. And I don't think that's changed. I still want to help people, but I help people differently now, I suppose. I want to get into mentoring people at one stage, so that'll be a way to help them. But I'm off topic now. So straight out of high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, because I didn't really get the right atmosphere to go into like health things. So I decided that I would just do like a random short course, and I did I think it was a Cert 3 in interactive digital media, because I was like, oh, this is something sort of creative and sort of technical, so it could benefit me, because like jobs in computers are cool. And through that course, even though the course itself wasn't that great, I don't really recommend it. But it did teach me that there was a film industry here and there was a games industry in Australia. And I was like, whoa, this opens up so many possibilities. I can work on things that people see everywhere. Like people go into the movies and I could say like, I worked on that. That's awesome.
And you have had that chance.
Yeah. From there, I was like, okay, what uni can I go to that I can learn this stuff and work on amazing things that people play or watch? And yeah, through research, I came across 2 different ones. It was like AIE or SAE. And I ended up with SAE because they have an internship and AIE didn't at the time. So that's how I ended up at SAE, and I met Sarah because we were tossed into a classroom together. And being there was 3 girls, I think.
Yeah, it was very, very male dominated space at the time.
Yeah, so we became best of friends because there wasn't many females.
I think we just sat down next to each other in the art class and we're friends now. Cool.
That's
like, how do you draw that well? Show me.
That's real awesome. But if by the sounds of it, you both had pretty similar beginnings, in the sense that you both grew up in a smaller town. You both were exploring something completely different, whether that be the health field or defense. And it was kind of not so much on a whim, you could say destiny, that you were thrown if they're on a lead into the VFX or generally creative industry. So do you guys feel that, this is something that, even though it was kind of touch and go at the start in terms of making that change, this is definitely something you always should have been doing, or you always had to be doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't change it for the world.
yeah,
I often look back and think about different things that when I was really little, I'd watch. One that really resonates for me is Walking with Dinosaurs films, the making of documentary for that. I loved that when I was little. And it wasn't until I watched it a couple of years ago that I realized that the part that I loved was them showing building the rigs.
Hmm.
Um, and like little things that little things like that I thought, if only I had have known that this was something that I could have followed. Like when I was 10, I would have said, I want to be a technical artist. And
Mm.
I think 10-year-old me would have loved the prospect of this. And I think that's something that's actually turned into quite a passion of mine, is going and talking at rural schools and talking to students and parents, and um, just kind of putting it out there that this is an industry that exists in Australia that you can become a part of. You don't have to be in America. You don't have to go and study at, a big American college to get into this industry. Like I'm working remotely from country Victoria at the moment. Um, have to be in the city to do it. And that's something that's become quite a passion of mine because, like Evan said, growing up in the country, you can become a hairdresser, or you can become a school teacher, or a nurse, or a nurse. Or you can go and do an arts degree until you decide which of the three you want to be. Those are pretty much the only options that we were ever really given and shown. So talking about it and exposing it, that this is something you can do, has been great.
Yeah, it's also been great that they're bringing it into high schools now, like coding. And as soon as I left my high school, they started like doing 3D classes in Maya. I went back a year later to show some of my stuff, but it wasn't very good at the stage. But kids were all really eager to get into 3D, which was great to see.
That's really awesome to hear. And I think both of you touched on kind of, talking to, letting people know that this industry exists, or Evan, you want to do mentoring in the future. Do you kind of feel that you have a chance to, or have you already had the chance to go back and tell people, either in your own towns or, people that you feel are inclined to it that might not know it, but let them know about the industry more? Have you had that chance already?
Well, I've gone back to my old school and I've talked to kids about what's out there.
Yeah.
I want to do that more. I also want to get a bit further along so I can know a bit more, but it's still good to get it out there now as a junior, because I'm what a lot of these people are aiming for at the moment, like as a junior level. So it's still good to get out there as a junior to let people like one step below you know that like this is what you could do.
That's real awesome.
It's been really good working with Mighty Kingdom the last couple of years because they're really big on getting out there and being involved in community. We sent I was one of a few people who got to go from Adelaide to Port Pirie last year, I think it was, to talk at a little game expo they had up there, talking to country parents who were really concerned that kids were going into this industry or wanted to go into this industry, and will they get a job? Are there jobs in Australia? It's kind of talking to parents like that. That's been really good. I was able to be a mentor for the working lunch last year. The year time has gone, and I'm not sure what it means anymore. That was fantastic to be able to talk to students and people at all different levels throughout the industry, and multiple different industries, not just games. You can get people who want to end up in film or in television or working in VFX for advertising even. So not just games, it's been really great to be able to talk to all different people.
That's real awesome. And by the sounds of it, both of you have had a chance to go back and have seen changes in terms of, progress for this industry and letting people know more about it. How do you guys want to get involved in the future when it comes to letting people know that this industry exists?
Well, Sarah was going to do the CG futures thing until COVID happened, I think.
All right.
Yeah, COVID's put a spanner in the works for a lot of things. One of my colleagues and I were going to be doing a talk at CG Futures about our pipeline and our rigging and just our processes. And we've kind of developed this, help share everything, lift everyone up kind of mentality and kind of spread the knowledge, I guess. That was one of the things that we were going to be doing. And like we have a lot of people that do different talks at different events, and that's all been kind of put to the wayside a little bit. But now it's great that we can do these online talks and chats and actually even reach a bigger audience than we would otherwise for a paid ticket at an event. And you can just jump on YouTube and watch a chat like this now.
No, that's really true. And I think there's really, really nice opportunities that come with that. And, despite a lot of the changes that have happened in the world, a lot of big opportunities in terms of conversations like that. I know I've personally been able to attend a lot of events I normally wouldn't have, either being hosted in places which I couldn't get to, or just timing never worked out. But now, it's really good to have that opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah, it would be nice to see that in the future, when COVID is over, we still do have those in-person events because sometimes you just can't be meeting people in person.
Definitely.
But it would be good to still have all of these online events that we're currently having, so people that are in remote places or are too busy to go and fly places can still attend and have input into these conversations.
Yeah. And I think in a world where we're more interconnected than ever, it's definitely there. The technology and the means are, and people have already tried it. That's awesome. I think we've had a really good conversation about how you got to where you are today, and in terms of where you all started together. The next question and the next part of it kind of touches on things we've already talked about, but you can feel free to choose a different example or just expand on the things that you were talking about already. And it's tell me about an inflection point where everything changed for you. And I know, Sarah, you talked a little bit about how when you opened up to the animation degree, and you as well, Evan, opened up the chance to move away from health and into the more creative space. But even beyond VFX and even beyond the industry, did you ever feel that your life was going in one certain direction, but you really had to reevaluate, or you made the conscious decision to change?
For me, it was definitely like spoken about. It was that, well, I can't follow this one path anymore. I'm just going to go and have a look at different things and see what I enjoy. And it just so happened that the first thing that I tried was what I ended up loving. And then within studying, there's been all these little kind of points where I've had that little aha moment, like that first rigging project that we did when I went, oh my God, I love this. I think a really big kind of point for me that made me kind of believe in myself a little bit more, I guess, and kind of kick out that little bit of imposter syndrome was when I was doing my first internship with uni. I was working with a company that they'd stand up, do their stand-ups in the mornings, and I was there as an intern, and they were asking me my opinion on things, and they were giving me roles that I thought, hang on, like this is a responsibility. They trust me enough to be in charge of this, and they trust me enough to do this. This is, they must be able to see something in me that, I was going, nah, I don't belong here. But just having that trust placed in me, this really big kind of turning point of, I am capable of doing this, and realizing that I was capable of doing things and actually, organizing a file structure or building a model or texturing a model without constantly worrying that, I'm just a student, I don't know how to do this. But yeah, having that trust placed in me really, really developed a sense of confidence, and I was able to take it from there and put that into different projects that I was doing. I was able to produce student films and actually feel confident that I was doing it right and doing it well. And I think that was the main, that's always been the main kind of turning point for me, is when there's this level of trust that someone's shown in me that's kind of booted the imposter syndrome out the door. And yeah, it's a great feeling to just, I can do this.
That's pretty awesome. And I think it's all about being given that chance. And it's really good that you were able to feel that early on in the industry. It takes some time for people to really feel that they are being trusted, or that to boot away, as you say, that imposter syndrome. So yeah, that's really exciting to hear that that internship gave you that opportunity. Evan, did you have similar kind of experiences or a different inflection point?
Well, I'm going to step a little bit away from the career
Mm.
and go an inflection point in my life. And it's about moving.
Mm.
So my first move, or big move, I suppose, was from that small country town to Melbourne. That was terrifying for me because I went from suddenly a place from 1,000 people to how many is Melbourne now?
Many.
More than a few.
More than.
Yeah. People on the street in my country town would say hi and they stroke up a conversation. But in Melbourne, it was crowded and it was terrifying for me. But you adjust to it, and that was the adjustment took a while, and I still got nervous at times and just sort of hid away in my own space. But I've moved a lot since then. From Melbourne, I moved to Adelaide for the Rising Sun course that I did, which I talked about in my previous interview. And at that stage, I sort of realized that moving wasn't such a big deal anymore. And even though you sort of freak out about it and oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know anyone. How's everything going to work? I don't even know where the local shop is. You sort of get over that nervousness the more you do it as well. And it's not as big of a challenge as you may initially think. You should just do it. If an opportunity comes up and you are capable of moving, you should go for it. Because since then, I made a life for myself in Adelaide. And then suddenly I got the job at Method. And then I moved back to Melbourne after signing a year lease in Adelaide. So that was fun.
Oh wow, that must have been quite the change.
I was lucky because my partner still lived in Adelaide, so he stayed at the house with the dogs and dog at the time. Now it's dogs. And I moved back to Melbourne, and then it was sort of that whole thing again, oh God, now I don't know anyone again. But yeah, each time you do it, it gets easier, and it's not as big of a hurdle as you really think. You sort of stress about it too much.
Yeah.
But you really should just do it. When you start working and getting to know people, a lot of that worry does go away. You should just get out there. But yeah, I think the initial move for me was
Yeah, I experienced something similar.
Yeah. Because you also
I experienced something similar when I first, when I got the job in Adelaide. I was sitting in my similar sized town, 1,000, 2,000 people. When I've got to move interstate to a city that I've been to the airport once in. I've never been to this city. What do? I don't know anyone. I don't know how to get around. And yeah, I think that might be a common thing for people, especially in film and games, because studios are in different cities, and you kind of go, unless you're working remotely, you go to your place of work. And I think working remotely is great, but there's nothing that beats sitting in a studio next to someone and actually being able to strike up a conversation with them, say, oh, cool, I'll join this group of people and go to lunch, and actually build friends within that studio, because the games and VFX is just full of wonderful people who will make you feel so welcome, and take care of you if you're new to the city and you're new to the office. But yeah, definitely, I felt the same when I was moving. What am I doing? I don't know anyone. I've got to turn it down. No, wait or go.
That's real awesome shared experiences that both of you have. If there was anyone that you knew or anyone listening who feels like they might want to take that similar leap or is tossing up whether they should, what's something that really helped you kind of decide to make the change, and when you did, actually help you, settle in or be content with what happened?
For me, with moving interstate to a strange new city, and I ended up sharing with an older lady who owned the house that I was renting a room out of, and she became like a family to me. The first couple of months I'd get home at a regular time, and I was much like clockwork. And the first night that I stayed out till nearly 9, I got a text saying, "Are you okay? Where are you?" Because it was just nice to have someone who was caring and who was there like family that you could rely on, and you could say, "Hey, I need a hairdresser to go to. Where do you recommend?" And having something like that was really good. So having a really good housemate really helped it for me. And then developing those friends at work and outside of work as well.
I think the reason why I chose to move was because I always thought that this was a really good chance in my career, and I don't know when the next one will happen. So even if it's really scary to move, it will be beneficial towards my career and towards my growth as a person, really. So I think that was the deciding factor in each of my moves on whether or not I should move. Even though I was fairly settled in Adelaide with my partner and my dogs and the house, I had everything sorted, and then the job came up and I was like, no, I got to move because this job is what I've wanted, and if I wait now, I don't know when another one will come up. So you really got to take those opportunities. And yeah, as soon as you start working and you connect with people, and there's a lot of in a lot of the industries and companies, not industry, sorry, in a lot of the companies that I've worked for one company. I don't know what I'm saying here. In a lot of the places I've heard of, and the company that I work for, people are just so friendly, and you can ask for anything really. Like, where can I go to eat, or like, what is good around here? What can I do for fun? And a lot of companies also have groups of people. I played in a board game group at my company, and I met friends outside of my little VFX circle. Because in the bigger companies, you do these little circles of your different like teams. You've got your animation, you've got your lighters, you've got your VFX artists, you've got your modelers. But outside of those, you've got like a board game group that will have people from each of those. And it's really good to meet other people outside of your little tight-knit group. And yeah, join groups or find like local places that are like of hobbies that you're interested in, and you'll meet people really quickly in these new places.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. Being around good people and helpful people definitely makes the experience a whole lot more different. I feel like I had similar experiences moving from suburban Melbourne to the center of Shanghai, China, in one of my previous study and career moves. And you're right, regardless of where you are, if you take the time to put yourself out there and look for the good people, they are there, and it really really makes a big difference in I guess in the way you work and everything that changes. So that's awesome. That's really really good to hear that you both had those experiences, and hopefully anyone listening takes that advice and makes that moves away from their comfortable house or comfortable experience. I guess that before moving on, I think that's would be a really interesting thing to touch on. No doubt you guys were comfortable at some points in your life, comfortable with the place you are, comfortable with the position. What made you move out of that comfort zone to actually explore something risky or potentially scary? We'll go ahead. Evan, you can have a chance to go again.
I was sort of already talked about that, so
Yeah.
you got any, Sarah?
Um,
Something?
for me, moving out of the comfort zone is terrifying. And kind of being away like from my small country town with all my family and everyone there, that everything I know. It is terrifying, but it's also exciting. And just the prospect of being able to learn new things and being able to experience new things for me is just what really drives me to be able to do things that I enjoy and to be able to do it for work too. That was the most amazing thing, that I thought, I'm getting paid to do what I love. Um, I'm going to move for that opportunity to be able to do that. And it's turned out that I love where I moved to. Like, I want to end up staying in Adelaide because I really like the city there. I thought that, maybe it might be for a year. I might stay there for a year and then move back to Victoria. But things don't happen as you plan them. As my entire story would suggest, I should be used to that by now. But yeah, for me, it's just being able to do and explore things and try different things that I really enjoy. That makes it all worthwhile.
Definitely. And it's all worked out for you definitely really well. Were there any times where it felt like you did feel like you needed to backtrack and you're like, okay, maybe now's not the right time? Or everything's really just, fortunately worked out with these big decisions in your life?
But having a relatively short career so far, I haven't had too much of a chance to go, oh, hang on, maybe I don't like this. It's only until recently that I've started thinking, hey, I could branch out a little bit more. And being in lockdown's given me the opportunity to kind of try new things. Like, I've got time to sit at my computer and get more into 2D drawing than just rigging. And I've discovered that even though I really liked this as a hobby, it's something I really, really do enjoy. And so it's something that I can learn to explore a little bit more and, maybe go, hang on, maybe I don't like coding pipeline that much. There's other things that I can do now, like the 2D. And I guess that's a really big important thing too, is that once you find something, you're not locked into that. You can grow and develop across your career. And it's been 2.5 years for me, and I've kind of decided that, hang on, I really do like something else as well. And it doesn't mean that one thing's completely cut out forever. It just means that your portfolio of what you can do has grown and has shifted a little bit. And it makes you, I guess, a more powerful artist to be able to do all different things and have all these different enjoyments. And like Evan, with doing things with Unity and Unreal, that's just adding more ticks to more boxes of, look at this amazing stuff that I can do.
Definitely. That's real awesome. There's always opportunities to move and change. And just like you mentioned, with all the other changes in your life, who's to say that we'll talk again in a couple of years' time and you'll be in a completely different place and position. That's really exciting. I think this is a good opportunity to move on to the final section of our conversation, and which is a simple question of reflection. Looking back on your life, what would you tell your younger self? And you did talk about a little bit, Sarah, in terms of, let them know about, try rigging, give this thing a go. And Evan, also, you talked a little bit about in the podcast previously. But was there any chance that there is something, you wish that you had known earlier? Or if it's not even a younger self, yourself, a younger person that would be like you?
For me, it's something like we've both touched on this already with the, country town. You can be a hairdresser, a teacher, or a nurse, and because that was what happened, that was my reality growing up. I want to make sure that, and I'm doing everything that I can. I'm doing talks like this. I'm going and visiting schools. I'm trying to make sure that as many kids understand that games and VFX is something that they can do. So maybe you don't have to go, I want to be a technical artist, when you're 6, but just even that understanding that this is an option that exists is a really powerful thing. And I think it would have changed me quite a lot. Like growing up, I didn't play too many games, and that kind of puts me at an odd point in the games industry, surrounded by all these people that said, well, I loved playing games growing up and I played this and I played that. And I played my first game of Mario Kart only a couple of years ago. For me, it was the art that really drew me in and made it an option for me. So yeah, just kind of focusing on the industry as a whole, as something that exists, and telling kids now and telling my younger self, like, drawing is a career. You don't have to be a fine artist to be an artist. You don't have to just paint or do ceramics to be able to do an artist. You can do digital art, you can do 3D art, you can be a graphic designer. These are all legitimate careers that you could follow.
And I think that's something which I also attune to myself as well. Like, you don't really know how creative people can actually survive in the future in the world when you're a kid. If you have an interest in art, it's always really, how can I just get people to buy my artwork? But there really is an entire industry out there. And, like you mentioned, it'd be really, really great for younger people to learn that this exists. And I feel like the resources like this, they're getting out there. So that's really, really cool to hear. And I hope that people like-minded get the chance to hear that from you as well.
Yeah, I really hope that one day the starving artist trope will go away, because there's a lot of artists out there who live off of their work. I'm a technical artist. That is my full-time job. I'm not starving. I had a nice lunch. Yeah, just trying to make sure that parents aren't worrying about their kids not making money with their job, and kids, like, I've had a lot of kids at questions at schools and things. They go, how can I convince my parents to let me do this? They don't think that they don't think that I'll make any money doing it. And just like we've been saying all through this interview, is that this is an industry that does exist, and there's a lot of money in games and a lot of money in TV.
It's definitely one of the biggest industries in the world now.
It's one of the biggest industries money-wise, but it's not one of the biggest industries people-wise. It's still a very small industry with like how many people work in it, and that's a really good thing in a way, because everyone's still like at the really friendly stage of the industry, because everyone's trying to help each other. And you get that with like new industries that have been around for a bit longer, sort of step on each other to get higher. I was having this conversation with my mentor a while ago. But yeah, everyone, or just about everyone you meet in this industry, is there to help you. They will literally go out of their way to give you advice. You just need to ask for it.
Definitely. I think that's a real good opportunity for people to reach out and actually talk to the people in a respectful manner about questions that they have. Communities out there exist. Did you have anything, Evan, that you feel like you'd tell your younger self?
I told my younger self something before, but something else to tell my younger self.
I'm sure that your younger self would appreciate a well-rounded conversation with you. Plenty of things to tell them.
Oh, yes. That I'm an amazing person as a younger self, but I turn into an even more of an amazing person. Something a little bit different, like I found that you get way more motivated to do work or to learn things if you find somebody else with that interest. So I would tell some younger people, or my younger self, to go out there and find somebody that is interested in what you're interested in. It doesn't need to be in person. It could be online. There are like so many online groups of anything. So like get online and meet people that are interested in painting or drawing or playing D&D, it doesn't have to be like a creative thing. It could be anything really. I'm just listing creating things because that's the person I am and that's what I know. But if you have like an industry in the health field or in sciences, go out there and find other people that are interested in it. It will motivate you to be better. And you might find somebody who like will push you to be better and you will push them, and you play off each other. I've sort of had this relationship with Sarah where we motivate each other to be better, especially during uni. And even now, like I'll send Sarah some of my stuff and she'll send me some of her stuff, and it just pushes us to be better. Like if I improve this, I can send it back to her, so it makes me do that faster. And she makes me join groups and things. Like she will do what the NaNoWrite thing, which was like write a novel in a month. And she made me join that. I didn't get through my novel, but I think I got like 5,000 words written down. Way more than I would have done if Sarah hadn't pushed me to do it. So find somebody like that in it. Everyone find your Sarah, but don't take mine.
Find your own Sarah in your life. No, that's really, really awesome advice. So before we finish off, was there anything else that you just wanted to mention, or anything that you feel like you'd want people to hear? Final words.
A big thing that I try and tell students whenever I speak to them is that there's no right way to get into games or VFX. There's no formulas you have to follow exactly. Evan and I had a somewhat similar path in with doing a course and saying, hey, we love this. Yours might be completely different, and that doesn't make yours wrong. You might study at a different university. You might study computer science and then go, hey, I really liked this aspect of it, and then follow it through a different course. Or you could be entirely self-taught. You could do tutorials online. Buying tutorials from online sources there's so many resources online now. You don't actually have to be qualified to get into this industry. You just need to know your stuff. It's not like you're being a doctor and you can't go into a doctor saying, I learned this on YouTube. But you can learn these skills online, and you can learn these skills from working with friends on your own personal projects. You might want to make a game with a couple of friends from school. You might want to write a comic with, a person that you're friends with on the internet. There's no right or wrong way to get into games or VFX. And that's the really kind of hitting it home. You've got to do what's right for you, and what's right for you will change over time as well. So don't feel that there's too many pressures on you that I can't get this job right now, or I've graduated uni and no one's hiring. Your little chance will come, and grab the bull by the horns and just dive straight in. It's you're doing this because you love it. Keep it up, doing things, personal projects. Keep it where your passion is.
That's really awesome. And I think without further ado, I think if that's that was a really, really good closing point. If that's how we're going to finish on. We've had a really good conversation today, Sarah and Evan, ranging from topics from shared experiences growing up in a smaller town to meeting each other and finding someone who really, really shares your experiences and benefits you in your career as well, to making big changes to moving. And I feel like this is a really, really awesome chance for people to learn, and also a great chance for us to reflect and learn from each other. So finally, thank you very much, Sarah and Evan. I really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I really hope that you did too. And I really, really look forward to everyone who listened to this, seeing where they go in their journey or seeing what they learned. So as a few parting words, I really look forward to seeing where your industries take you and your journeys take you next. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of The Artist Journey. And I really, really look forward to having more conversations like this in the future, either on informal occasions or maybe another podcast. We'll see where this goes. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you again for listening to another episode of The Artist's Journey. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot to know these conversations are adding value to you all. If there's something you found particularly interesting, let us know in the comment section below and share these interviews with your friends and family. Be sure to check out our previous episode if you haven't already and jump into our Discord channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Artist's Journey.